I spent quite a lot of time with the research and reading. I don't like the word research, but reading and trying to know more about this period of the guitar, and especially about Niccolo Paganini, right? And of course, then I saw also a lot of things about Fernando Sor, which is actually the very opposite composer to Niccolo Paganini, in my opinion. However, Sor, his works, the early works, was also under an influence of Italian opera. That's very important to know. And mostly there is opinion about his work that we should perform these pieces really very strictly in the what they call the correct style, and really keep the score, the message of the score, and trying to transcribe it for the listeners. In my opinion, there are so many possibilities. Also, when you play his music, how to make the ornamentation, how to make also cadenzas in his music, but not so exciting. It's not so exciting like in the Paganini. His music is really something what we can say is close to. Very often is this opinion about Sor as a Beethoven of the guitar, but I think I read a nice opinion that it's more like Karl Czerny of the guitar, which I agree also very much. The interesting thing is that I'm very interested actually to imagine how was his playing, of Fernando Sor, because I had a chance to read the review from Paris Music Journal about his concert, which was written by Fétis, a very well-known musicologist. And what he wrote about him was that actually Fernando Sor is a fantastic composer. He's a great musician for sure. But why he is playing such a poor instrument like a guitar? Then, that's interesting that 2 years later in Paris he's playing Zanni de Ferrante, and he prized the Zanni de Ferrante, and not only Zanni de Ferrante, but he writes, oh, what an instrument is the guitar. So many voices, and so many colors, and so for me it can mean also that Fernando Sor was a kind of the player, which was maybe not so expressive like the Italian players were. Of course, it can be also because his technique was very different to our technique. I think I should say almost that his technique was closer to lute playing. He was not playing with the nails. Everybody knows he was not using for the melody. He was not using the annular, the third finger. But this is only in my imagination, only what we can read and so. But I read also the interviews about his playing like that. It was very touching, and I think his playing was very elegant. Exactly how his beautiful music. There is a really elegance, which is very much close to the dancing. It's very well known that he was also making ballets, writing the ballets and opera and so on. For sure, he left for us one of the most important parts of the guitar literature we have, and we need to know it more and play. For me, exactly, I think for me the most beautiful are his studies. Really, his studies, they are touching, they are elegant, they are beautiful, they are very good for the students, and I like to start my day when I practice. I like to start with the studies of Sor. I'm sorry, it's always so beautiful. I love it. I'm very happy that the city where Fernando Sor was born has finally, I don't know if in the history were some festival, Sor festival here. This is probably the first edition. So I really am very happy that Sor has found his festival. The name found again place here. And I wish festival really the very, very, very long life, lot of happy people listening the music. And I'm now going to Montserrat to see where Sor was studying the music. So thank you very much for invitation and for the honor be here. So I had some videos from my childhood, and there is one. I think I'm like 6 years old, 5 years old. I think before I went to the school, and there is suddenly such a picture that I disappeared from the family, and my father from very far away is filming me how I am sitting in the grass, keeping the guitar like this. Then I realized that probably I am the left-handed, and my technique is very much left-hand. I'm not using much right hand. I do everything left. And so I realized, oh my God, I'm probably the left-handed guy. But it was maybe the beginning, that I first time actually like this, did the first notes on the guitar, and I think this is the beginning. That's the beginning, and it started in the nature. By the river where I'm living now, I left Holland 10 years ago, where I left the Czechoslovakia in '87, and I migrated to Holland, which is another story. But after 18 years, I decided to come back to that river when I played the first chords. That's very funny. I just realized now. Yeah. So this was probably the moment, and the moment when I started to love to play guitar, when I heard this voice, in '60s when I was a child, the guitar was it was a symbol of the freedom. The guitar was a symbol of the freedom, and actually it's still till now for me. The guitar is a symbol of the freedom. The family, which was not professional musicians, they always took the music, but my family always took the music like a very important part of their life. So we were always singing, we were always listening some music. Maybe my parents were never bringing me in the connection with the classical music. It was too complicated for them. But with many kinds of the folks music, and I learned a lot of songs, and I wrote also the songs, so I started somehow to combine the music also with the word, and there come a story inside, and I think I still keep that, that if I play some music, I have always the stories, I have my own story inside, and I create I like to create with the colors and with the articulation, the character of the voices, that the people, there is a dialogue. I like if the music is kind of the communication, and I think this is very much what my father, my mother, they gave it to me, to communicate with the music, to share the feelings, to share the expression, the good and bad things, to cry and to laugh, and this everything. And I have also to say that I think that for me, of course, were important some guitar teachers. I like to learn to play the guitar, but I think even more important for me were also writers, actors, singers. Seeing the opera. I like to see the guitar like it's the little theater, little opera, bringing the stories, and so it's. I tried also in that time when I was living in the communism in the 70s and 80s, which were really difficult years for this part of Europe where I'm coming from, to create my personal freedom inside, because there was the kind of the world where I could escape. And it's quite important to say it for me now, because even now, when I search the reasons why I am playing the guitar, I think it's my personal freedom. I'm searching my personal freedom. And it doesn't mean that I'm allowed to do what I want, but it means that it gives me a very deep reason to be what I am. and I don't need to pretend that I'm something else, you know. It's quite complicated story, of course. Every life is very complicated. Somebody can play the guitar or any instrument to show that he's better than the other ones. You know, somebody wants to show, I don't know, to impress somebody, which is actually the same, I think, with the ego, you know. And so I don't think that for the musician the ego is really the most important thing. I think that the love is much stronger, and even stronger is this thing what we call the freedom. Personal freedom is very, very, very important, especially in that moment when around us is arising so many life which is really only consuming, you know. And I think that the world is split in the two parts, you know. The one part, they are the people which really consume. And the second group of the people, they are the people which are a little bit balancing between creativity, very strong creativity sometimes, and sometimes also consume. You know, I should not say that there are, of course, few which are really only creative, and I prize them to the God. You know, they are fantastic. They're very important. But I think the most group is the balancing between the consume, between the strong creativity. There are so many young guitarists which are really already so high level, you know, and it is. I think also the teachers which are now these days, they are also such a high level, you know, and there is so much more known than, for instance, when I was a student, there were so little, there was almost no music, you know, to find when I was living in Czechoslovakia. So we were creating own music and then writing by hand the pieces of SOR, you know, to have because there were no copy machines, you know, this everything. So that now, of course, the information stream, you know, you open the internet and you find the library there and library there, and you can download it, you know. So, so it's very difficult. I think that's what I should really say. I should really recommend is that they should find themselves, and not be the copy. However, it's not bad to make the copies, you know, to try to play like Segovia, to try to play like Jobet, you know, to try to play like Williams, you know, because when they were paintings, you know, the painters learning, they went to the master, they say, and now you have to do it like me. And even Aguado, he's recommending first copy the masters before you find them yourself. And I think this is very important. Find yourself, because this is how you can make the world richer, more rich. And we need really not the Dalai Lama words. We don't need many winners of the competitions. Not first class. We need the people which are really creating with the love, you know, and with something very positive. This is, I think, but this is, you know, these are not my words, but I think about it very much often, yeah.